I was a couple of years away from graduating with a PhD in chemistry, specifically computational chemistry, and I had to look for a job, and my biggest concern was my skill set. And I quickly realized that the jobs that were available was mainly related to using machine learning methods and applying machine learning methods in the field of chemistry. So if I had to get a decent paying job with good job satisfaction, first and foremost, I had to learn to code and I had to learn how to apply machine learning methods to the field of chemistry. And this is where my journey begins. So what did I do? How did I get started? Where am I now? What really helped me in this journey in learning how to code in Python and apply machine learning methods, the mistakes that I made, and if I were to start all over again, what would I do? All of that in this video. So watch until the end as I share my entire journey with you right here. Let's go. The first thing we have to talk about, this was back in 2020, which is when the job market was changing. Well, all because of the pandemic. We all know that. People were hiring different types of scientists. What I mean by that is it wasn't traditional computational chemistry anymore. AI, ML were taking over things. The pharmaceutical industry, the petrochemical industries, or any chemistry related industry were looking for researchers specifically who can apply AI and ML methods to solve some of their key problems. So this was a time when everything seemed to have changed very drastically, not just how we work or where we work, but also what kind of work do we do. So this was a period where I realized that I really had to learn new skills, improve my skill set, improve my project profiles, or do some extra projects that will really help me become more attractive to a recruiter. So the first thing I did was go through LinkedIn, Indeed, and all these Glassdoor and all the available job search engines basically to see who was hiring and what were they hiring for and where can I add or learn new skills that will add value to these companies. So I looked at this as both outward and inward. Inward because I wanted to know what my skill sets are and what I can do to add value or bring value to the table. Outward in a sense that what is out there, like what kind of jobs are out there and what can I do basically to land a good, not just good paying job, but also a satisfying job, a job that will encourage me to learn and grow as we move along. As a computational chemist, I was very used to using methods like DFT, density functional theory, molecular dynamics. Well, I specifically didn't do MD, but these are traditional methods in quantum chemistry. So quantum chemistry is something that I've always liked, and I really wanted to learn more about this field and apply some of the methods in this field to help discover new materials. And as interesting as it was, AI and ML really took things to another level. It basically made things much faster and maybe not so accurate, but it's getting there. But it's opened a lot of doors and a lot of opportunities. And I did not want myself to be left behind in this rat race. It really is a rat race, but I'm starting out as a young researcher and I did not want to be left behind. So I decided to take workshops on AI and ML. And these were workshops offered by some of the best universities out there, some of the best professors out there. To be honest, the first time I did the workshop, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no clue about the concepts that they were talking about, or even some applications that they were discussing. So I was like completely blank. Everything they said just went way over my head. And that's when I quickly realized that, the first step, let me break this down into steps. And the first step I need to do is actually learn how to code in Python, because a lot of what they were showing were built and made in Python. So that's where my journey begins. The first thing I did was looked at resources, and I picked up Codecademy, which is a pretty decent resource. I would say actually pretty good resource, which is where I started. And a month later, I was like, no, this is not happening. I literally gave up. I was like, okay, this is too much, or also I don't see much of this relating to my current work. I absolutely didn't see how I could apply coding in chemistry. And bear in mind, this is the very first step, and this can happen to everyone or anybody. I got back to my regular research, which involves using the traditional methods that I just described, like density functional theory and applying it for surfaces, solid state, and also molecular-based studies. It was back to the old routine of repeated tasks, doing the same thing over and over again. I reached a point where I did feel like I needed a change. I needed to learn something new on the side that will really help me progress some of the projects that I was doing as a PhD student. So probably a few months after, I decided to go back into Python. I looked at a lot of resources online, a lot of paid tutorials. And believe me, some of them are good, but there's a lot of free stuff out there that's even better, or if not, at least as good as the paid ones. So you don't always have to pay to win big or to learn really good. But at the same time, I also realized that if you pay, you're a bit more committed to learning. But I didn't want to pay. I still didn't want to pay. So I decided to go with Codecademy. The problem with Codecademy is it's so structured. Like, it's too structured that there are concepts that I learned which are really good, but I no longer use it or never used it, and I don't remember them anymore. I know there's something out there in Codecademy that was really new and unique and structured in a way where I would learn those concepts specifically, but never use it. So that's when I decided to learn from some YouTube videos, because YouTube videos are so easily accessible and there are very good people out there who do a really good job. That really helped me get my basics under control. And this is important. But I quickly realized that, just learning through the basics, going through the modules, maybe doing a project, a tiny exercise here and there, they aren't really that useful. What's really useful and what really reinforces the concepts into our mind is actually doing projects. Projects are so important. Like, they can be really tiny projects, but you will learn a lot from these projects. For example, I decided to, build my own project of parsing some output files from DFT calculations. So I was specifically looking at a few lines in a very huge and large text file. And usually, if you do it manually, you're opening up a really large file, copy pasting stuff, which is a mess. So instead, I wrote a Python code. I decided, okay, this is going to be my first project where I will basically take the output file, parse it using Python. Parsing is, by the way, a way of finding a section of a text or any numbers or words in a whole mess of a huge file and getting key information that you need out of it and saving it in another file. So that's technically parsing. So I decided to build this project or this parser all by myself without using much of, packages or things like that out there, because there are packages out there, believe me, that makes parsing way more streamlined and simpler. But I just use basics of Python, things like for loop, if statements, conditionals, and whatnot, and data types to basically build a parser. And this project really taught me a lot about coding. So it really made me enjoy learning how to code. And at the same time, it really helped me reinforce what I was learning. So if there is one big advice that I can give to folks starting out to learn how to code, start with a project. If you stay tuned to this channel, I'm planning on posting more videos on using Python for your own projects. So I'm trying to, make a video where basically I present a project to you and I will work through this project with you. That way you can learn how to code. So it's on my list. So do subscribe, don't miss out on it. And while you're at it, help the algorithm find more people who will like this video by hitting the like button. Thank you. So to complete my learning process of Python, I went through the entire Codecademy, and looking back, it was a really good decision. And I am not disappointed with that. But stay tuned, as I will tell you more about some more resources that you can use that will really help you even more. So just stay tuned for that, because I want to first talk about what I did after I learned programming in Python. So after I learned Python, I wanted to transition into AI and ML. And this is where I took the very famous course on Coursera by Andrew Ng on the basics of machine learning, where he goes very deep into the math involved in things like linear regression, logistic regression, and neural networks. This really helped me understand the fundamentals of machine learning. And a lot of the programming, by the way, in this course is in Octave, or in other words, MATLAB. So it's not really Python, but once you learn one language, it doesn't really take that much effort to move into another similar language. As long as you know how the process of coding works, once you've got your hands into it, it becomes a lot more streamlined and understandable. So it wasn't a difficult course, but it was a very, very much needed course that covered all the basics. So this particular course, Andrew Ng, I'll put it up on the screen, fantastic course. So if you're starting out in machine learning, take this course. I think it's also available for free, but check it out. So after I did this course, I was like, okay, I'm ready, but what do I apply machine learning in? I had no idea of applying machine learning in my field of chemistry. So this is when I started to dig up literature and see what other people are doing, see if there's already some kind of work that's out there that uses machine learning methods that will help me, plan a project and carry out the project in a much more feasible way, instead of, trying to come up with something completely unique all by myself, because, usually when you try to do that, there's always going to be a lot of hurdles. The project likelihood of being successful is very low. And remember, I wanted to learn and apply the skill because I wanted to not just learn, but also show that I can actually do some quality work in this field. This was also around the same phase where I started to learn new packages, things like TensorFlow, PyTorch. These are basically packages that you can use to build machine learning models, specifically neural networks or deep neural networks. So these are really fantastic packages. And if you stay tuned to our channel, I'll definitely be planning on putting out some videos on how you can use these packages to your specific projects. So moving on, what helped me the most? The most helpful thing in this process was actually working on projects. Find projects. Like, seriously, there's no other better advice than finding projects to learn, because projects give you a skeleton to work with. It gives you a direction, a path that you can follow. And a lot of times it takes the fluff out of what you're trying to do, in the sense that it sets clear expectations on what you can do and what you cannot do. So you don't waste much time on the things that you cannot do. So find projects, whether that's through your mentor or a collaborator or any online resources. I like Kaggle. Kaggle is a good place to start because they always have data sets out there and projects for you to work on. And these are mostly machine learning related projects. And if you're learning to code and also learning machine learning, this is probably one of the best places to find projects and learn through projects. And believe me, you don't need to know a whole lot of coding to do machine learning. Coding and machine learning, two separate skills, where you can almost say coding, you need to know coding in Python or any other language that you prefer to apply machine learning. But if you're looking for something like building tools or a software using Python or any other programming language, you kind of don't need machine learning and stuff. So machine learning, the structure and the skeleton kind of remains the same. The steps involved kind of remains the same throughout. And it only uses a subset of concepts that you learn in Python. So just, keep that in mind. So technically you can learn machine learning much faster or, much easily compared to programming. But that doesn't mean programming is hard. Okay. It takes time and effort. These are two things that you will need: time and effort. Make sure you find a project that you can put your time in and your effort in, both. So talk to your advisor, whether that's a PhD advisor, a professor from another lab or another university or anywhere else. Find a mentor. Find a mentor who can guide you, and find a project that you can start applying your skills in. Because believe me, this is a process. And when I say it's a process, this is where I want to advise both you as a student or you as a professor. Now, I don't know who's watching this, whether it's, you could be a professor at a university, you may have students working with you, or you may be a student yourself and you may have an advisor or whatnot. My advice is this: as a student, find someone who can support you, find someone who's patient, find someone who can give you the time to learn, the guidance to make sure that you don't waste time on things that are unnecessary, but at the same time, someone who keeps you motivated, who believes in you, basically. Because if you've got someone who doesn't really support you, who doesn't really see you as a person, they're not good for you. And you're not going to learn. You might feel like you're learning, but in reality, you will not learn. Believe me. So try to find someone like that. And if you cannot find, let's say you absolutely cannot find anyone who you can work with. Say your advisor is not entirely sure about AI, ML. He doesn't have much experience and he can't really help you. He or she can't really help you. Start on your own. I know that it's going to be hard. I know that, with lack of direction and support, it becomes really difficult. You can get lost in things that don't really make sense or don't really matter at the end of the day, but just get started. And as you learn, you will start hearing about people, whether that's through publications or conferences. You're going to start seeing and meeting people who are good at this. And then you can network into meeting them, talking to them, and learning from them. And the best option actually is, now that I think of it, I wish I had a learning partner. Find someone who's in a similar stage as you, and you can sit together, learn together, discuss concepts together. So, and if you're looking for someone like that, just, comment below, ask for help. And I'm really sure at some point somebody's going to reach out to you in the comment section here to get connected with you and learn together. Now, if you're an advisor and your student comes to you and says they want to learn machine learning methods or they want to learn how to code, let's say you're an experimentalist, let's say you're someone in chemistry or physics or any major and you have no experience with programming in Python or machine learning, and your student wants to do this, give them the time and space to do it, because it's a very important skill. Not only is it going to advance their career, but also when they learn this important skill, they can add value to a lot of projects, because believe me, it saves you a lot of time and trouble to find the right person who can take care of the computational part for you. So if your student is very motivated to learn this and transition into AI or ML, do not stop them. Try to provide them as much support as you can. And if you can't do it directly, do try to reach out to other professors or other researchers out there to get them the support that they need. Another advice is be patient, be understanding, be supportive. These kids or these PhD graduate students, they look up to you. They try to learn from you, not just the science knowledge that you bring to the table, but also they try to learn from your behavior. They try to learn from your personality. So be a good person, be supportive, and trust me, they will thrive. So after I learned the basics of Python programming and the basics of machine learning, what I did was basically I took on a real machine learning project. And this was when I was doing my postdoc. And it was about 4 months where I was doing my postdoc at a university. And I started applying simple algorithms on this project. Now, here's the important thing. If you're looking to build a skill set, if you're looking to build your project portfolio, some projects will fail. Some projects will not get you the outcome that you expect. And this happens more often than you think. But always focus on the learning aspect, which is what I did. I learned so many methods. I learned a lot about applying machine learning methods on real world data. It's not some data set someone prepared and, tossed it to me. It was a data set that I had to clean. I had to look up stuff and carry out data analysis and do all kinds of plotting, do all kinds of cleaning of the data, and also building some machine learning models. That way we could predict some properties. What I learned the most from that project was actually using smart ways to write my code, make my code more refined, and also learn about new methods when it comes to plotting and stuff, and also digging into the nitty-gritty of each and every algorithm that I was using. So this is how projects can be really beneficial. So my advice is find a project, something like that, something that's not really straightforward, but at the same time, you learn a lot from trying to complete this project. My next advice is try to learn what's necessary and not everything that comes your way. And I say this because when I got started in machine learning, there's just so many algorithms. There's just so many directions that you can go into. One day I'm like, oh, I'm going to be an expert in random forest. And the next day I'm like, oh, I want to get into deep learning. Then I'm like, okay, I want to do, some type of graph neural network. Or the next day it's like, oh, let me actually look at machine learning potentials. Or another day I'm like, oh, image processing, fantastic. So there's plenty of directions that you can go in. You have to choose one. And this is probably the hardest part to do because there's just so many things out there. There's no guarantee what will work, what will not work, because it's still a very new and upcoming field. And you have to be open to learning new methods every now and then, because what you learn today in this field may be obsolete in a couple of years. So you have to stay relevant, and that's important as well. As a researcher, as a computational chemist, as a machine learning scientist. So keep that in mind, but at the same time, you have to start somewhere. So identify your niche, identify your project, and try and learn all the skills necessary to complete that project. Believe me, the idea is not about learning everything. The idea is if you can learn one thing and master it, then you have the potential to learn another thing and master it. So think of it that way, and that will really go a long way. So what was my most difficult part to learn when it comes to Python programming specifically? And that is object-oriented programming, or OOP, or things like building and writing classes and using the methods that already exist in a class. Now, if you don't know anything about Python programming, this will probably be everything like, just going over your head. But quickly, what I want to say is there are many resources out there that explain these concepts really good, including some on my own channel here. So do check it out. But the most important thing is it takes time and effort, which I know may seem like I'm repeating myself here, but you have to take the time and effort to learn how to write classes, learn how to use classes, and basically apply it to your project. So every time, say you complete a project, go back, see if you've used object-oriented programming, and see if you can use object-oriented programming by, making modifications to your code. This is how you learn object-oriented programming. So it's a difficult concept to learn, and I'm sure a lot of people who know Python will agree with me on this. If you don't, just let me know in the comments below. Maybe you know something that I don't, and I'd be happy to learn. But it is a difficult concept to learn, and it's not a concept that is absolutely necessary for you to master in order to apply machine learning or machine learning methods in chemistry. So just keep that in mind. And this comes to my next advice along the same lines, is that just because you hit a hurdle does not mean that that's the end of everything. Sometimes there are ways to go around the hurdle, over the hurdle, or through the hurdle, but find your way. And a lot of times talking to people about it, expressing your problems goes a long way in helping you overcome these challenges, which is one of the biggest things that I learned. Probably learned it the hard way, but now that I know, I will be applying this more often. And my next advice is learning never stops. So if you're in this field, you're constantly learning new things. So be open to learning anything that comes your way, whether it's related to machine learning or chemistry or whatever. Just keep an open mind and learn as much as you can, because that is the only way that you can stay relevant in this day and age. That comes to one of the biggest problems or the biggest mistakes that I made, and that was losing my self-confidence. And self-confidence is so important. It can take you places. So always believe in yourself. And this is the most important takeaway that I want you to have if you're still watching this video. So be self-confident. Don't lose your confidence. Yes, everyone makes mistakes. Everyone takes time to learn and grow and apply their new skill sets. Just know that things take time and effort, and don't judge yourself. And if there are people judging you, try to get away from those people. And if there are people directly related to you and the work that you do, well, then know that that's just not the place for you to be. So find ways to move, not move on, find ways to move, because you deserve better, you deserve to be confident, and you deserve the very best in everything that you do. Basically, you deserve people who support you, who challenge you to grow and who are also understanding of the challenges that you face day in, day out. So stay confident, believe in yourself, and you will get things done. So now that you stayed all the way through, I want to share what I'm doing right now and where I am right now and how I got here. So currently I am a postdoctoral research associate at Idaho National Lab. It's a job that I've thoroughly enjoyed so far, and I'm very positive about bringing value to the table and also learning a whole bunch of new skills here in Idaho. I know Idaho, known for potatoes, but it's also known for nuclear energy and a lot of science happening here, which not many people are aware of. So just so you know. How did I get here? Well, I did my postdoc and then I was looking for a job for a while without really having any leads. And I started to brush up on skills and improve my skill sets, so not just in coding, but also in machine learning methods, and actually went back to apply my new skill set in a couple of projects that I was still working on as a grad student. And I was actually able to bring that through. And in one of my interviews, obviously I was showcasing my skill set. They really liked me and they decided to hire me. So I'm here and I'm very committed to giving my best shot here. So I'm very thankful for this opportunity. And I'm also going to be working in applying AI and ML methods. So not only am I going to be growing in this field as a researcher, but also I get to do something that I really enjoy. So cheers to that. And I really hope that one day, if you're looking for a job, your dream job, I really hope that you work towards it and that you actually get it. Consider this as my prayer to you. And if you want to get started with Python programming and you're trying to decide how to do it or where to go next, I think this video here will help you out. So thank you for watching this. I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.